Hello, RPG Limit Break, and welcome to another of the matches in the Dragon Warrior Randomizer 2019 Summer Tournament. We have a quad matchup here going on. We have two races that will be going on simultaneously. We have gameboyf9 versus the AmazingToaster, and we have Highspirits versus Thirwolf. We are now in the third round of the Swiss. There are over 60 entrants into this tournament, and so we have 5 rounds of Swiss that eventually will lead into the brackets. A 3-2 record will allow players to advance to the bracket stage. And in the Highspirits versus Thirwolf match, both of those players are 2-0. So whoever wins this match is basically going to be guaranteed to move forward into the bracket stage. And then with gameboyf9 and the AmazingToaster, they are both 1-1. And so a win obviously will get them a step closer to the brackets as well. I think it's going to be an exciting match. Our restreamer today is CD Improv. Our trackers are Ali Brap and Cyberdart, joined in the commentary booth by Bryself. How are you doing today?
Same as always, ripping ready and roaring to go here with some great Dragon Warrior randomizer action. A 4-way, gotta love it.
It's a whole lot of fun as a spectator watching when there's 4 going on at a time. And yeah, we've got some good runners in this one. Personally, yeah, I feel like Game Boy and definitely Highspirits, who's one of the very best players, seem like they're probably favorites going into this one, but it's randomizer, so we never know exactly what you're going to get. But it looks like we're getting close to getting this one started, and yeah, as usual, I can't tell you how ready I am for this. They're so fun to watch.
And I'll just add to that, much like when Mr. T was asked in Rocky 3 for a prediction, I predict pain.
We had taken a look at the stat start for this one, and I believe we saw just 5 starting strength, which is kind of right on the cusp of where it could be worse if they can't find slimes right at the beginning. But who knows? We'll find out in a little bit as they get started what's going to be in the throne room that might give them some leverage.
And we also do know that they will be starting with the spell of heal, so they will have an ability to do prolonged fights if they need to. But we are underway.
Awesome. Let's take a look at what they start with in the seed.
Appears to be fairy water, gold, and of course the magic key to get out of the throne room. If there's a nearby town, hand axe could be in play.
All right, and we'll get a look outside in just a moment. The good news is they are not starting in a swamp. The better news is there is indeed a town outside. And perhaps the best news is that it's not Hawktown with a shop. It's the town of Breckenridge, which is everybody's favorite town.
Indeed, we have a copper sword and a small shield by, it appears.
And yeah, that's just the leg up that the players potentially needed on this one. With only 5 strength and 13 hit points, even with the heal spell, it was potentially going to be a little dodgy to kill some monsters, but everybody pretty much is going to get off to this start. And yeah, now there'll be a lot of things in killing range.
gameboyf9 going for a supreme hike through the foothills without an encounter. That was crazy.
Yeah, those hills tiles have a higher encounter rate, and so it's extremely unlikely that he was able to get all of those steps without an encounter. I do see that some of the players have chosen to go ahead and purchase a dragon scale and perhaps some herbs, whereas Game Boy just kind of immediately after getting basic equipment decided to head outside. It's a little bit of trade-off of time versus equipment right there at the start.
Well, it looks like it's going to pay off as he'll be getting the first level of the randomizer race. He gets 5, 10, 1, and 0. Magic points not so important right now, so that double-digit agility was a nice gain as well for some defense.
But yeah, with the hit points still this low at just 14 at level 2, that means that the heal spell is not going to be too terribly valuable. Normally, if you had heal and a copper sword right at the beginning, you might be able to handle a number of the zone 1 and 2 enemies. But with the low hit point totals, there might be some enemies who are basically going to be doing one shot or close to it on these players, even with a little bit of equipment. And so I'm not sure that they'd be able to out-heal some of the monsters in Zone 2.
And level 3 for Game Boy on a Scorpion kill is 2, 4, 4, and 2. And I believe there was a spell, several spells, Hurt, Radiant, and Outside.
That's a big set of spells. Hurt especially, even with the Copper Sword, is probably going to do more damage against certain monsters, such as the Scorpion. And indeed, Game Boy F9 is doing exactly that, and he's going to move up to the next level.
7, 4, 1, and 3, and another spell on top of that. So a good fast start here for Game Boy. And as you can see, that nearby town has really helped everyone. As Lorgon was saying, Copper Sword, small shield, they're able to tank a few hits and just get ready to rock and roll, get these levels rolling, and get out exploring in the world much quicker than some of the more recent races we've seen.
Indeed. It's a nice start. Game Boy went back in to revisit the equipment shop. I guess he just wanted to remind what the other expensive items were. There was full plate and magic armor, but they're still far short of having the gold for that. Meanwhile, Highspirits has wandered off a little bit and has found some kind of dark cave, which I think might be Swamp North. I didn't get a good enough look there.
Unfortunate there for Thirwolf, who found a metal scorpion with only 9 hit points left, hoping that it would roll low or the hurt spell would kill it in one shot. Unfortunately, the metal scorpion won that encounter, because that guy is very valuable, 31 experience early on. A great enemy to try to take down.
Game Boy F9 just learned that the Drakima, who would have been worth 20 experience, has the weak breath, fire breath, and so that sent him back to the start, but he now also has that cave on the screen, Game Boy, and so perhaps he'll walk over there and take a better look since he's already got the Radiant spell.
Sleep was the spell at level 4, a very nice assist spell, not only for running from stone men, but good for putting these early game enemies to sleep so they don't get to wail on you.
Yeah, so all in all, the players have kind of all the assets they would like to have for a decent start. They have equipment available to buy, even if it's kind of just starting equipment. They've got spells, healing, hurt, sleep. It's a great set of features, and so everybody's going to be on relatively equal terms, I think, to really get off the ground here. I like this start.
Fortunately for Game Boy, an Axe Knight takes him down when he was 1 experience point away from the next level.
And I think I saw over an AmazingToaster side, possibly also a Blue Dragon. It seems like if you go out into that peninsula up and right of the Tanagal start, I'm not even sure if it's a peninsula, but in the desert over there, you can quickly get into a zone that has some very scary enemies.
The hit points continue to lag behind. Game Boy's next level is 4, 1, 2 for hit points, and I believe 3 magic points.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well. And I think he gained another spell, and it is Hurt More. We'll have the fire transition on the tracker. With Hurt More, all of a sudden, there's a new whole set of enemies, such as this knight that Game Boy will be able to take out. That is going to be a complete game changer. And so this one seems like it's going to be off to a fast start.
The level gain is 3, 4, 1 single hit point, and 3 magic points. Unreal how low these hit points are right now.
Well, provided that the hit points eventually come in the next 2 or 3 levels, it's probably not going to be a huge deal, because probably, I'm guessing levels 7 and 8, now that they have Hurt More, are going to come very quickly. And provided they have enough agility to get the initiative on a number of these middle-tier monsters, like the Knight and the Druid Lord, yeah, they should be able to kill a bunch of guys with Hurt More, so it won't matter a whole bunch just yet.
And of course, the requisite, as the Firebat would say in StarCraft, time to fire it up. Ow, my pride. Thanks, Lorgon.
I gotta leave the requisite amount of dead air every time you make a joke. It's just our thing at this point. Game Boy at this point, having not chosen to go to the other shop in Breckenridge, gave him a few seconds kind of head start, and then Obviously, all the abilities that the players are getting have been very kind, so he is currently in the lead with experience, but High Spirits is hot on his tail catching up, and Game Boy discovers that in the swamp cave there is a stone man guarding the princess, and since they are relatively hurt more resistant, he is going to go ahead and move on. But the other enemies that are in the swamp cave, we've seen a Magiwyvern, we've seen a Knight, we've seen a Druid Lord. All of these are enemies who will absolutely die to a single Hurtmore and are worth a bunch of experience. So all the players will be able to grind to their heart's content in the swamp cave, it looks like.
And not to mention that the Knight and the Magiwyvern are both guaranteed Hurtmore kills. There's no risk of them living through it. So that's 78 and 83 experience, guaranteed.
Indeed, I think those are the two biggest experience gaining enemies for among all the enemies that are guaranteed to die to Hurtmore. So that's a great enemy set there in the swamp cave. And even here on the other side of the swamp cave, on what might end up being a second continent that Game Boy's walking around on, we're seeing enemies like Wraith, and there was one other one I already forgot that are relatively good Hurtmore enemies as well.
I think we hear some sirens. Game Boy's been arrested.
The Fun Police is our favorite name for the red dragon, because when you encounter a red dragon, the fun tends to end. Game Boy gets sent back to the castle from the most dangerous enemy in the game.
By the by, since we have a brief moment here while they're trying to retrace their steps, why don't you explain what our competitors are actually trying to achieve?
That's right. In a Dragon Warrior Randomizer, the object of the game is to defeat the evil Dragon Lord who lives in Charlotte Castle. But in order to do that, players need to do a couple of things. For one, they need to collect a number of different plot items. There's the Stones of Sunlight, the Silver Harp, and Erdrick's Token, which can be found in chests or in different search spots throughout this randomized map. And all the while, they need to be doing a bunch of single combats in order to kill enemies and gain experience in order to increase their own stats, as well as find towns to be able to buy equipment so that they can get stronger against fighting enemies, so that by the time they can reach the Dragon Lord, they will also be strong enough to actually kill him.
And yes, you do also have to locate a couple caves to do some trades. You need to trade that the Silver Harp in for the Staff of Rain, and then that with the other two story items would be traded for the Rainbow Drop to get that access. So lots of locations to find, and they need to keep it in mind as they go. And Game Boy F9 up to level 8 here. A couple Axe Knights quickly vaulting him up the way. 12, 4, 1 hit point, no magic points. They are starved on the hit and magic point. Not very good.
Indeed. Right now, that seems like the only thing that's potentially going to slow the seed down. A typical Dragon Warrior Randomizer seed in the tournament, I hadn't looked at the actual averages, but I would say around an hour and a half is a typical seed. With Hurtmore coming this early, having a town for equipment, and having a number of good enemies nearby, I have to figure that this one is likely to be on the faster side, but then those hit points that have been so low are giving me pause.
Failed sleep on a Magiwyvern, somewhat rare there.
Indeed, Game Boy F9 doesn't have enough magic points left to do the Hurtmore, but they're very sleep susceptible. And he finishes it up with an excellent move that'll take off a bunch of the Magiwyvern's hit points and give him a chance to win this battle. Sadly, it wasn't quite enough. The Magiwyvern woke back up and finished him off. Copper Sword is not going to quite do it at this point. Really need that Hurtmore spell. Need to have enough magic points to cast it. Speaking of the randomized spells, where they were just learning spells at random, anywhere up to level 16, what other things are randomized in this randomizer?
Oh, everything's randomized. Town locations, the overworld map. Also, the back doors of a couple of the places behind locked doors. They also go to different spots. What else? Enemies' attacks. And they're not playing with the really chaotic things going, so the hit points and experience and gold will be always the same as they are. Other than that, I think that's about it.
There's also the shops in the towns. We'll have random sets of weapon and armors that are available. And then obviously the chest contents whenever they go into those dungeons. So whenever someone finally finds a dungeon that has a chest in it, who knows if we're going to find, Erdrick's Sword or just a Dragon Scale. And so at this point, after, I don't know, probably by level 9, there'll be Well, with hit points, it's hard to tell. Strong enough to really do a whole lot of exploring around the map is what I was about to say. And we'll probably start finding some of these dungeons where they're going to find some chests and see if there's going to be something else that's going to vault them further ahead or slow them down.
Speaking of level 9, Game Boy F9 gets level 9. It comes with 13 hit points, which isn't a ton, but given what they have, that is just water for a man dying of thirst, I think.
And for those just arriving, as a reminder, we started with Fairy Water and Gold as the two random chests that were in the throne room. And the gold was useful because the town of Breckenry was on screen, where the players were able to buy their copper sword and small shield that you see just about everybody have. And from there, it was off to the races pretty quickly because Hurtmore came at level 5 or 6. I've already forgotten.
So yeah, at this point, the most important thing they want to find is either Rimeldar or a lucky magic key inside of a cave. They want to get those locked doors going here. The castle, maybe there'd be the sword. Maybe there's one of those big dungeons underneath the castle. Be a very important find at this point.
Indeed. Yeah, keys are often one of the key items. There are 3 random keys that can appear in the various chests in various dungeons and towns throughout the game. And so getting that first key is definitely a possible way to progress much more quickly, since even just in Tanagal Castle where you start, there's those 4 treasure chests and another place to go downstairs.
And presently, Game Boy with a slight experience point lead over AmazingToaster, but that's about the only lead anyone has on anyone else. There's really not been much advancement at this point to say anyone is taking a command of their race.
Indeed. Yeah, Hurtmore is kind of the great equalizer, especially when there isn't any other equipment that anyone's found available somewhere. And yeah, as a result, it's mostly coming down to the encounters that the players are getting and whether or not they're finding all these kind of perfect Hurtmore enemies. Highspirits currently has a knight on the screen. It's going to be another 7-gate experience for him. If you could just keep on finding that guy a number of times in a row, that'll definitely help you out in terms of experience. But eventually, one of these players is going to walk far enough on the map to discover a new location, and that's when things will start to diverge and change again.
Game Boy F9 unfortunately does not win 2 coin flips in a row versus a blue dragon. Only 1 Hurtmore lands, and he will be going back to the castle.
Yeah, the blue dragon, one of those Sharlock tier enemies that is going to require not only multiple Hurtmores to kill, given their weak attack power with just the copper sword, but given its Hurtmore resistance, yeah, like you said, it's basically a coin flip to land. So you might need 4 tries at Hurtmore in order to defeat the blue dragon, and sadly, he's going to eat you before you get a chance.
AmazingToaster with an armor knight escape. Pretty reasonable get there. And it's followed him. He's not getting away twice. Well, armor knights do have hurt, so that could make them a fun enemy later for taking on.
Yeah, behind the red dragon, the armored knight is typically the second worst enemy you can encounter in the overworld. But yeah, given that it's casting the hurt spell pretty frequently, that's actually going to slow down its damage output, making that enemy a whole lot less threatening than it is typically. That's just another example of the randomized abilities and attacks that the monsters can have.
And it looks like the AK-47, the armored knight, also known as the deputy sometimes, called in the sheriff, and the red dragon quickly sent AmazingToaster back.
And yeah, given that there's a number of these more difficult enemies mixed in, every time you take a death and go back to Sharlock Castle, deaths, by the way, it looks like our amazing trackers are doing a good job of keeping track of the death count. To the upper right of the players' names, you see little numbers that are potentially tracking all the deaths these players have taken, and there have been a lot. Oh, I see Game Boy traveling through a swamp.
He found Rimeldar in the swamp.
So as we talked about before, this is the town where you can buy keys. Game Boy is going to be able to buy keys. He'll immediately be able to open a single chest that's here in the town of Rimeldar. And then eventually when he's back at the castle, he'll be able to open 4 more chests in another location back there as well. So this is a big find for Game Boy.
It also means that if he finds Garnum, now when he finds Garnum, he'll also have keys on hand to check what's in their warehouse and their locked up possible dungeon.
And I hadn't been paying quite enough attention. Was just that kind of to the lower left on the second continent?
Unfortunately, I missed its exact location, but that does sound about right. Cursed Belt in the inn, so nothing too helpful.
Yeah, when you have a cursed belt at the start, there's a number of places that you could sell it for 180 gold, which might be nice. But given that the players already have hurt more and lots of great targets to kill, 180 gold is not going to make or break anybody. Each time you die and get sent back to the castle, you do lose half your gold. And that's the main thing that's prevented these runners from being able to accumulate the 3,000 gold they'd need to buy full plate armor, which would be a big upgrade at this point. But yeah, it's been hard enough for the players to stay alive to accumulate all that gold just yet, and so they're happy just to be earning experience and getting some more exploration done.
Game Boy F9 searching the Sparkover Island, Sparkover Bridge, both locations. Unfortunately, not the spot. And we have a cave over here to the west of Revolder. And we are looking at the mountain cave. So there are 5 chests available here.
Yeah, so another chance for Game Boy to basically increase his lead. If any of the plot items, the Stones of Sunlight, the Silver Harp, or potentially even Erdrick's Token could be found in here, that could be big. And obviously Erdrick's Sword would be huge in terms of the attack power, and the Fighter's Ring could also give 2 attack power. That's an item that's randomly found in one of the chests in the world that, in the vanilla game, didn't actually do anything to boost the attack power, but in Randomizer gives you +2 on your attack.
And speaking of plus to stats, 1, 10, 21, and 1. So double-digit agility and then a 21 hit point gain. Game Boy is just rushing back to the inn, possibly going to go to the chainmail as well. We shall see.
Yeah, and I wonder if we could pull up, oh great, the player stats again. So yeah, that agility at level 10, 73, it's already turned green on the tracker. That's a really fantastic agility for the players to have this early in the game. They can run from almost all of the enemies, so you're able to choose your battles once you get to level 10. Even the guys at level 9 with 63 agility are pretty much in that place. Other than Armored Knights and Red Dragons, the players are likely to be able to run from most of the enemies that they encounter. And that coupled with Hurt More is going to be really great, despite the fact that it looks like Game Boy F9 and Amazing Toaster have both taken 8 deaths. I could easily see them taking not many more, even with the low hit point totals.
Here's Thirwolf making it to Remolder.
And Game Boy F9, at this point, if he does get a number of chests in Mountain Cave, do you think he'll take an intentional death inside the cave to get back to the castle?
I would say absolutely. The cave is located on a dead end on the world map. He'd have to hike back through some swamp. It's kind of windy. I think he just does that, checks the armory, and probably will do a gold grind, remembering what was right there in Breckenry, right near Tanagel Castle.
Yeah, and so just to preempt it happening, this game was, a NES game from long ago, and so the way it was programmed, it can only keep track of 8 chests that the players have opened at any given time, and that list of 8 chests is only reset when the players go back to the overworld map. I'm going to take a diversion here because Highspirits has found something interesting.
Indeed, Highspirits and Cole has found the Fairy Flute, which is the vanilla location for the Fairy Flute, so I am required by law to say, Magru! But the Fairy Flute will put golems to sleep 100%, but it takes about 8 seconds to go into your items and play the long ditty that makes that golem pass off into the slumberland.
All right, but yeah, Cole being one of the 3 potential search locations, there's 3 items, Erdrick's Token, Erdrick's Armor, and the Fairy Flute, that can be buried in locations somewhere on the map. One of them is in Cole, one of them is in Hawksnest, being guarded by a difficult monster, and one of them could be randomly somewhere in the overworld. And so Cole is one of the 3 important towns that you typically need to find. Meanwhile, Game Boy is still in the mountain cave trying to finish things off in there, But if he does manage to die after opening the 5 chests that are in the bottom of the mountain cave, and then gets sent back to the castle throne room, where they originally opened 3 chests, that will be all 8 of the chests that the game could keep track of, which means if Game Boy then goes to the castle treasury, he can not only open those chests, but he can open them repeatedly over and over again, because the game can't keep track of opening any more chests. So if any of them have gold, he'll be able to effectively print an infinite amount of money, which will be useful for going and buying some upgraded armor. We know there was the magic armor right there in Breckenry.
Indeed, and High Spirits located the Jerk Cave, or the Rainbow Drop Cave, somewhere on the west coast that is now into Cole himself, so Fairy Flute coming on that side.
And meanwhile, Thirwolf just opened up the treasury chests, but I missed exactly what it was. But it sounds like one of them was a gold chest, and so Game Boy is actually starting to print gold right now as he checks all the chests. The gold glitch also creates a interesting text, and so Game Boy saw a couple of harp knights, but he did get a dragon scale and a cursed belt, it looks like, also in addition to the gold in the treasury.
I think it was either herbs or keys, judging by the results of the searching again and again on those item chests.
And while I remember that there was magic armor in Breckenry, I can't remember if there were any improved weapons. I guess for Game Boy, Breckenry was the only town that he's seen so far, wasn't it?
That and Rimeldar for sure. I don't believe Game Boy has seen anything else.
That said, even with a low hit point total, given that they have healing, given that he has hurt more, it would not be a bad idea just to take a bunch of extra money in the hopes of being able to buy something else great elsewhere in the world after you go buy the magic armor.
And AmazingToaster has found Rimeldar, so 3 of our competitors now carrying keys. Just High Spirits right now off on the wrong path, potentially.
And chat is saying that the Flame Sword and Silver Shield were both available in Rimeldar. I don't remember specifically if Game Boy actually checked the shop, but it does look like he is trying to get all the monies so that he could buy all the top tier equipment, the Magic Armor, the Silver Shield, and the Flame Sword, which would be, other than Erdrick's Armor and Erdrick's Sword, the best equipment that you could get in the game.
Game Boy definitely checked the shop. Checked in there, couldn't quite afford a chainmail. It does appear that the chainmail was picked up on that revisit to Rimeldar after the early mountain cave entry. And I'm being told the basement apparently was an herb in Tablet Cave. Tablet Cave being basically a lore or story cave in the vanilla game with 1 chest at the bottom, and it often has nothing, but if you get there, you may as well check it when you're there the first time, so you don't have to come back later if it's necessary.
And Thirwolf made an interesting play there. It looks like he only went for just over 3,000 gold, just bought the full plate. The full plate is almost as good as the magic armor. It doesn't heal you every 4 steps the way the magic armor does. But on a seed like this where you have hurt more, full plate is probably pretty adequate equipment for getting around. And so that saved him a little bit of time compared to Game Boy in terms of grinding all that gold. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Right now, High Spirits has about a 900 experience lead over Thirwolf, but the fact that Thirwolf already has the keys and now has some better equipment is really going to potentially even things out.
And Game Boy, after purchasing the magic armor from Breckenry, has gone to save. We'll have to revisit to do that again if he gets picked off, and is probably heading for Rimeldar, knowing that the Silver Shield and Flame Sword are available.
Yeah, absolutely. If Game Boy does make it there and buy those bits of equipment, then he'll pretty much have a free walk over the map. I have to imagine that at this point, even Red Dragons and Armored Knights, he's probably going to be a favorite to live through. And so he should be able to really start finding everything, assuming that his magic points are going to actually last. I've lost track of how many magic points they have still.
It's still somewhat low. Thirwolf buys the hand axe from Rimeldar right as High Spirits enters Rimeldar, so everyone has keys now.
Oh yeah, only 30 magic points at level 10. That is actually still going to hold them back a bit. That coupled with the low hit points. Yeah.
So Game Boy picked up level 11. Appears to be 2 strength, 8 more agility, no hit points, and 8 magic points.
The 8 magic points are honestly pretty huge. Since Hurt More costs 5, and it's still the main attack that most of the players are doing. I guess Game Boy's about to go pick up his flame sword, so he'll really be able to cut through a number of enemies as well. But yeah, when you only have 6 shots of Hurt More, you can't kill that many guys before you need to go back to a town and get your magic points back. And so getting this flame sword actually is a bigger deal than typically it is in a Hurt More seed.
So at this point in the festivities, we are still waiting to see Garen's Grave, which has 5 potential chests they could be searching. We are looking for the Staff of Rain cave, which is where the Silver Harp will be traded in, although no one has the harp yet. And we are also looking for Hawksness, which has a search location and a spike tile guardian. Cantlin, which potentially could reveal the coordinates of where to search on the overworld. And Garanam, which has 3 chests available, and quite probably either Garen's Grave or the harp trade-in in behind it. Oh, and of course the freebie cave, or the Vanilla Stones of Sunlight cave. There's a chest just available a few steps inside of the cave, and they potentially could get a really good item there. And we're still waiting for Erdrick's sword as well. Come on, that one wasn't even a joke. You don't get a dead silence me on that one.
Sorry, I was just looking to see what Game Boy was doing next. He's gone to Tablet Cave, which is underneath Tanagel Castle. And yeah, I was just trying to think through the big picture right now. It's really going to come down to, if any of the exploration is going to break things open for any of the other runners. Game Boy's the only one who I feel like has a significant advantage right now. The other 3 seem to be on kind of pretty even territory as far as I can tell.
It's like looking at High Spirits, for example, probably could still try to get a silver shield. It's a bit of a walk, but the large shield with this agility would probably be enough for anyone for the end game fights. The agility, every 2 points is worth a defensive point, so they're carrying 30 to 40 defense points right now just at level 11 from their agility alone.
And yeah, I agree with your assessment, given how high the agility is already, and the fact that they're obviously going to need to get more levels to get more hit points and magic points before they'll be able to fight the Dragon Lord. Defense power is not going to be the thing that's going to hold them back, and so the large shield is very likely to be very sufficient for High Spirits. And so not having the silver shield like Game Boy is unlikely to be much of a hindrance, and if he manages to find Erdrick's sword or Erdrick's armor in the not-too-distant future, then the fact that he's way behind compared to Game Boy's flame sword and magic armor wouldn't be much difference. That said, of course, we do have 2 2x2 matches. It's Game Boy running head-to-head versus Amazing Toaster, and High Spirits versus Thirwolf, and so I'm just comparing Game Boy and High Spirits for comparison, but they're not actually racing.
And interesting point someone made that Game Boy has 86 defense points right now, and that's without Erdrick's armor. That is incredibly high. The biggest things, of course, are, well, every other stat except agility is a little low. Hit points are coming along. Magic points are starting to show some signs of improvement, but that strength is pretty at this point in time.
And unfortunately, in terms of just grinding up experience, they obviously have a lot of exploration to go, and so you prefer just to kind of walk the map. The only spike tile that we've seen, the only repeatable enemy encounter, is the one that was in the swamp cave that had a stone man, and stone mans are not particularly susceptible to hurt more, and so it's not a particularly great grinding enemy. A really useful town for all the runners to find at this point would be Hawksness, because if there were an Axe Knight, or even potentially an Armored Knight and Hawksness was near a town, that might be a way to grind up some experience quickly. In the meantime, Game Boy has found the Staff of Rain Cave right over by the Big C, Charlotte Castle, that has a moat around it. Eventually, they'll get the rainbow drop to create a bridge across.
I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt and say that Game Boy F9, just to the south of that, found the Vanilla Stones of Sunlight cave, and it had the Stones of Sunlight, which means I am once again contractually obligated to say, McGrew!
So, yeah, Stones of Sunlight and Stones of Sunlight cave, fairy fruit and coal. Not as much randomization as usual, perhaps. And the fact that the harp trade-in is right there next to next to Charlotte Castle, but as I recall, was the Jerk Cave way over near Cole, near the bottom left of the map or something? I can't remember exactly where Cole was.
It was on the west coast to the north of the Rainbow Drop Cave, which was more in the southern quadrant, I believe, southwest.
I see.
So unfortunately that for trade-in, you prefer that Rainbow Drop Cave to be right by Charlotte. Just useful. You don't have to go out of your way once you have everything ready to go.
Right. So yeah, just looking ahead towards the end of the race, there will be a little backtracking after the players manage to get the harp and the token wherever they might be found in order to talk to those old men, in order to do the trades to eventually get the rainbow drop to get into Charlotte Castle. So that'll slow down kind of like the end of this, potentially. But yeah, we really need to find more locations. Garenham and Hawksness are going to be huge towns to find at this point.
Game Boy F9 found Bridge City, which isn't a real place, but man, that's a lot of bridges.
Yeah, that's one of the new features of the relatively new version of the Randomizer that we just started using a couple of weeks before the tournament. McGrew has improved the overworld map generation. It now includes rivers, and those rivers tend to divide up continents in a way that create a whole bunch more bridges. It really creates some interesting maps.
Thirwolf picking up a silver shield from Romualder, so some good defense boost there, going from a small to a silver is, I believe, 16 defense power.
It's kind of an interesting choice. If you're going to grind all that money, I didn't see if Thirwolf had checked that shop before. I imagine he would have, to know that the flame sword was there. I think I would go ahead and get the money to pick up the flame sword, or I don't remember. I guess he only had the small shield, so upgrading to the silver is definitely probably worth it. But again, with all the agility for defense power, like a large shield could have been enough. Like I might have preferred a flame sword instead of a silver shield, honestly. I'm not sure.
The only thing I'd say to that is probably just banking on being able to pick up Erdrick's armor with either Erdrick's sword in hand or not having something he's going to have to cut his way through, because something like a red dragon would be pretty tough to have to hack through with a hand axe or a copper sword.
Yeah, and on the seed, there have been a lot of hurt mortal enemies, so that's very favorable to all the runners. But again, with the low magic points, you either have to run out of magic points very quickly and then take a death on the overworld map, or somehow make it to a new town, which looks like Highspirits might be about to go find a new town. Or you have to choose to do some melee attacks to kill some of the low and medium tier enemies and save your hurt mores for the most desperate situations. So still creating a challenge for all the runners to manage their resources.
Game Boy F9 and Highspirits are going to be in, well, Highspirits is, and Game Boy's about to be in Garenham, which has a locked door to a warehouse with 3 chests, followed by a staircase at the back of the town, which could lead to, actually, I think we've seen every location, so it should be Garen's grave.
Wait a minute, are you saying that Garen's grave might be behind the town of Garenham?
I am hearing rumors to that effect, yes.
Can I say it?
If you like.
McGrew!
I actually wasn't going to do it because Zarnax has indicated that McGrew is apparently not a fan of the meme. So I'm glad you did it instead.
I see. I fell on that grenade for you. Yeah, love the randomizer, but obviously there's always the chances that some places or some items will be in their vanilla locations. But we're about to see on Highspirit's side what is in the 3 chests.
Oh my goodness, I didn't see it, but Game Boy got picked off before getting to Garenham apparently, because he's back at the start.
Oh, I missed that too.
That's what we get for memeing. We apologize.
Yep. I take full responsibility for that one, I think. Yeah, so Game Boy's going to face a long walk back there. At least he knows where it is. But yeah, given that he doesn't even know what town it is, I guess there's still a number of towns that he really wants to see, so he'll definitely be making a quick run back there to see what it is. And meanwhile, there is Garen's grave underneath Garenham. High Spirits is going down to those chests, and I just missed the first one.
We have torch, fairy water, and a fighter's ring on the top floor.
And I think I saw in the warehouse in the back of Garenham, the silver harp was picked up over there. So we're getting a number of the key items. At this point, Erdrick's token, I guess, is the only key item that we don't know where it is, and its most likely location is either hidden in Hawksness or on the overworld, where they'll have to get the coordinates from Cantlin.
I believe we've seen every chest except for the two in the bottom of Garen's grave, so the ideal dive here would be Erdrick's sword and the token.
But yeah, pretty unlikely. It seems more likely now that there's 2 chests in the bottom of Garen's tomb where Erdrick's sword could be, but then 7 chests inside Sharlock. And so the odds are 7-2 that the big stick is going to wait until the players get into Sharlock Castle. But yeah, we'll see as High Spirits is continuing to dive down deeper into Garen's tomb to try to get those 2 chests.
Chad is indicating we've seen both cursed belts. I don't believe we have. At least I haven't noticed it. And if we have, then that means that the token is definitely in a search spot.
Yeah, I was trying to review in my head. I wasn't taking notes on that, and so I can't remember where the cursed belts that we've seen have been. But yeah, it seems like people said that we have seen both. So Hawksness or Cantlin, one of those, I guess both of those are going to be required because one's going to have Erdrick's armor and the other's going to have Erdrick's token. And you definitely need Erdrick's token, and while it's theoretically possible to win without the armor, no one in a randomizer match is ever going to do that.
Yeah, the only one I recall seeing is the one in Rimmildar, but Mountain Cave's been tough to follow in the dark. Tough to predict when those chests will be opening, so it could have been in Mountain Cave, potentially. Not in the treasury, though, at the castle. That was 2 gold and I believe herbs in the other 2.
I think one of them in the Tangential Treasury might have been a dragon scale, because I think I saw Game Boy put one on right after raiding the treasury.
And speaking of Game Boy, he is back now to Garenham, while grabbing a harp and diving the grave. And I missed the sidebar item on the grave. Amazing Toaster is left now? Oh, sorry, it's High Spirits. Down at the bottom, it's Wings. Okay. It appears High Spirits is setting up a death warp now, potentially. The right enemy show up anyway.
So in our top race, the experience is 3,600 to 3,300, so that's really tight. But Game Boy has more equipment and has found more locations than Amazing Toaster, so he still has pretty good lead, I feel like, right now in this race, although it is still reasonably close. And then the other race, High Spirits has about 3,000 experience, and so does Thirwolf, and so they're kind of neck and neck. They have different amounts of information and equipment right now, and so that one's a little bit more difficult to call.
Yeah, it's a little more even on the bottom race between High Spirits and Thirwolf, but Game Boy has got out to an early lead and has not really relinquished it. It's not a large lead, but has gotten out to a lead and just kind of rode a wave consistently ahead the whole way here by just a little bit.
And that despite the bad luck that he just had trying to get to Garenham before, losing to, I think the chat said it was a poltergeist that had hurt more that he tried to run from. Which was extremely unlucky because running from a poltergeist with 70 or whatever agility they have, you're a huge favorite. So that was very unlucky on Game Boy's part. But that said, he's still able to kill monsters on the way back, and so he's keeping the experience lead up just hanging in there.
The question of what was in the inn at Rimmildar, it was a cursed belt.
In terms of spells, we haven't talked about it. The one main thing that they're missing on the spell front, since the spells are learned randomly at different levels, is Heal More. All the spells will definitely be learned by level 16. That's something that the randomizer guarantees. But any of these next 4 levels... Oh, Heal More is already there, and I missed it somewhere along the way. When did that one appear?
Level 12.
I see. Got it. All right, well then please ignore the words coming out of my mouth. One of the few spells that is still missing is the spell of Repel, which will prevent low-level enemies like slimes and poltergeists from harassing the players as they walk around the overworld map. They could also buy fairy water at either Breckenry or Cantlin, although I don't think anyone has found Cantlin, in order to repel those low-level enemies. But it seems like the map is filled with a lot of mid-tier enemies that are actually good for earning experience most places, so not having Repel is not a huge setback.
The 2 locations we're looking for right now are Cantlin and Hawksness, because we need Erdrick's armor and we need Erdrick's token. So both search spots are going to be in play. Those locations just have to be found for our competitors to start collecting those last few things they need.
And inside Cantlin, there will be an old man who will give some coordinates relative to the castle of where one of the items is going to be buried. If those coordinates end up being far away and difficult to count, we'll probably see the players go rescue the princess out of the swamp cave. Everyone knows where Swamp Cave is, and a number of the players already know that there's just a stone man guarding it that they will be strong enough to take down at this point. To rescue the princess, who gives you basically a GPS to tell you where you are on the map to try to find those coordinates.
Question in chat, what's with that gold? High Spirits collected 5 chests in a dungeon and then took an intentional death, and due to an overflow in the memory of the game, the 3 chests that are counted from the throne room added up with the, I believe, 5 that were collected in that dungeon, making 8, meaning the next set of chests that get opened will not be removed from the game. So going into the treasury at the castle, High Spirits was able to just keep collecting money out of a bottomless chest, getting the max amount, or the minimum amount of money, I should say, to buy the best equipment in the land of Alefgard. That is how all of our racers are going to have silver shields and magic armors and flame swords and the like. These are very expensive items that are difficult to get during a race without that exploit.
And yeah, that particular gold glitch is something that was available in the vanilla game as well. However, in the vanilla game, the gold chests only contained like 12 gold or something, whereas in Randomizer, the gold chests have a random number between like 500 and 750 gold or something like that. And as a result, it's much faster to exploit the gold glitch in order to get tons of money to buy some of the expensive items. And yeah, I don't know, in like probably more than half of races or something, players take advantage of it, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, and they don't always go for the full amount of money. It depends what they've seen, how close the towns are, whether they feel it's necessary at the point they're at in the race. There's various calculus that goes into this type of thing.
I see another Game Boy level up, 4-1-18-4, I think is what I read, and the 18 for hit points is pretty good. That's going to make his Heal More spell even more valuable. However, still low magic points. Magic points may be the bottleneck on the seed, it's looking like.
I believe there was 7 bridges on screen there as Game Boy went and did the Spark Over Bridge search. There is some incredible amount of bridges in this area.
And yeah, at this point, I've kind of lost track of the map to figure out what areas they haven't yet searched in order to try to find these 2 missing towns.
I do know that the enemies were really stopping them early on to the north and northeast, I should say, east and northeast from the castle, but they should be able to survive that no problem now. I expect we're going to see Cantlin and Hawksness start showing up in short order. Some very windy pathways, though, on this particular generation.
Yeah, and if it turns out that Cantlin and Hawksness are very close to one another, and Hawksness has a good enemy to grind on the spike tile, that could turn out to be huge, because it seems like these players are going to have to grind out a bit of experience to get some more levels in order to have the stats they're going to need to be able to get through Sharlock and try to take out the Dragon Lord at the end of the game. And so it'll be really interesting to see what monster ends up on that Hawksness tile.
Game Boy using Fairy Water right now could be a double-edged sword with this high defense. Could run into some nasty monsters, hoping to find either of the towns, and is really far from Tanajoel. And speaking of nasty monsters, there's a red dragon. And that's 12 damage with a flame sword. That's how bad their strength is right now. It is pretty bad.
It's bad, but it's not awful. The stats were up a moment ago, and I think it was in the 60s or something. They're only level 13. This seems like there's going to be other stats that are going to bottleneck them, so that it's probably going to be at least level 17 before they're going to be ready. 60 is not great, but hopefully one of these next few levels will give them some more strength. Unfortunately, yeah, the red dragon...
Game Boy goes down. That is rough.
And yeah, I'm kind of surprised maybe that he didn't just choose to heal more and run strats at that point, because at this stage of the game, I feel like getting the exploration done in order to find those final two locations is the key thing. And so with all the agility that he has, probably like a 1 in 3 chance to run from that red dragon.
Speaking of red dragons, AmazingToaster now trying to take one down.
He's taking a risk by taking a... Oh, the red dragon has heal more. How rude.
That could be a real problem if there's red dragons on either spike tile. That would be not good.
And even in Charlock, I guess in Charlock, given all the agility the players had, they'd probably be choosing to run from the red dragons by the time comes later. But yeah, if a red dragon ends up on that spike tile, we'll have to eventually see what its stop spell resistance is going to be, because that might be one of the only ways the players will be able to defeat it. Yeah, if that ends up being in Hawk's Nest, that could be a real slowdown on the seed. This really just got interesting.
To our trackers, don't put up the stats for that red dragon until if we see that there's one on a spike tile. That would be an interesting thing to see. Our players going and we having no idea, just like them. And only one of them knows about that heal more. That's a nasty surprise. So it appears that AmazingToaster is now getting up to the same area Game Boy was working earlier. As Game Boy is coming back around to that same rough area. What is this town right here? It's coal. Okay, I was going to say someone passed that earlier. Game Boy into coal, probably just for a refill on the way.
So yeah, given the fact that we saw that the Armored Knight has hurt, Red Dragon is really the only scary enemy we've seen so far. I guess we've seen players run into a golem, but since the fairy flute was in coal, the players could always choose just to get away from the golem, so that one's not going to be too bad. Axe Knights, Stone Men seemed pretty vanilla. I can't remember if we've seen a Star Wyvern or a Wizard. I'm just trying to think of other Charlock enemies that could potentially throw a wrench in the work later as well.
Game Boy locating the Rainbow Drop Cave. I don't believe he'd been there before.
Yeah, he's finally finding that little corner of the map, having just picked up the fairy flute from Cole as well. So this is getting part of his exploration done, but all the runners are still looking for Cantlin and for Hawk's Nest. Thirwolf is now crossing some of those bridges to get over into that region of the map.
And a red dragon waiting in the forest. Kind of a scary run there, honestly, with 29 hit points. But they only have, what, 50-some, 60, 70? It's not a lot, so I don't know if a heal more would have made much of a difference.
Yeah, it's really tough. That also just coupled with the fact that their magic points are still so low. Like, you want to have some magic for using Hurt More on monsters while you're exploring. You need some magic for Heal Mores when you're trying to get away from a red dragon. Yeah, it's kind of a tough situation right now.
I expect we're going to see some herbs for healing between battles as well, so they try to prolong their magic points to make this exploration more likely to succeed.
Well, Thirwolf just mapped out another little empty peninsula, so there's not a whole lot of map left, I have to imagine. These maps in Dragon Warrior are just 120 by 120 squares, and it feels like at this point we've probably seen more than 3/4 of it, would be my guess.
I'm guessing that both of these towns are somewhere in the north, and you have to go through the cave, the swamp cave to get there. And speaking of the swamp cave, at what point when you haven't seen either town do you maybe just rescue the princess so that you have the GPS available for the coordinates if it's way far away, so you don't have to go back, get the princess, and then hike all the way back?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit earlier as well. If you end up taking a death and getting sent back to Tanagel, as I recall, the swamp cave was not too far away, just like a screen or two to the left of the start, and so that might be a good time to go ahead and preemptively do it. There were also some good hurt-moreable enemies inside the swamp cave, and so you'd pick up a little bit of experience while you were doing it.
Oh no! I didn't see where Hawksness came up for Thirwolf, but look who was waiting in the spike tile. Oh, that's awful. With low magic, that is... oh no.
So they do have stop spell, but I'm not sure if Thurmore saw the heal more. He did a random hurt more against the red dragon, which if it had landed, only a 1 in 16 chance, that could have been huge. But yeah, that's a spicy spike tile, as someone says in the chat. It will be really interesting to see how this plays out for our runners, and also to see if that turns out to be Erdrick's armor or Erdrick's token. In the meantime, it looks like Thirwolf is going to continue and try to find Cantland, which is probably not going to be too far away up here, because, again, I don't imagine there's a whole lot more of the map to explore.
Hangry Canuck wants to see what the red dragon has, but I think we have to wait till someone tries stop spell strats before we see it. We should be patient. You know, build up the excitement for finding out how bad this stop spell potentially could.
Speaking of excitement, Thirwolf manages to run from the werewolf a few steps outside of Cantland. We're finally going to find out about the coordinates, and that'll give us a lot of information as to whether the princess is going to get rescued or not on this seed.
So, with the Cantland not that far away and about to get the coordinates here from Thirwolf, we will see what's going to happen next for Thirwolf. I'm assuming that a trip to Hawksness, and if the coordinates are bad, then a death warp home. But otherwise, I'm not sure what the plan is going to be. This is very interesting how this is all playing out. And for the record, I believe only AmazingToaster knows about the heal more on the red dragon at this point.
Yeah, that sounds correct based on what I've seen so far as well, though Highspirits is wearing down. Well, he just ran from that red dragon, so he might have seen it, I'm not sure. But yeah, in terms of the grind, like, would you choose to grind a Stoneman? I almost feel like the enemies who were in the swamp cave are among the best place to grind right now, because there was a knight, there was a Magiwyvern, there was a Druid Lord, and it's not too far from a town. I might want to use some heal more, use some grinding over there. I saw from the chat, Game Boy also saw the heal more from the red dragon.
58 north and 24 west. I believe that could be countable, I think. Not 100%, but based on what I'm recalling of the geography, it could be a count that could be done without the princess helping out.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of on the verge. If I were doing this race right now and knowing approximately what the runners know, I think I would choose to rescue the princess just because of what I was just saying, that Swamp Cave is also a decent grind spot. And so I feel like I would be continuing to gain experience, which I'm going to need, while picking up the princess along the way. And that would just give me the confidence then to make sure that I'm going to successfully find whatever's at that location, whether it be Erdrick's token or Erdrick's armor.
Thirwolf really hoping to find that broadsword, but I don't know if we've even seen one on this particular randomization. It's been an interesting shopping experience in a lot of locations.
Yeah, and early on, Thirwolf choosing not to do the gold grind for Flamesword money didn't seem like it was necessarily going to have that big of an effect, but now all of a sudden that is turning out to be a big deal, and so the other players all having flame swords, that's turning into an advantage for them that Thirwolf lacks.
And at the time, as I said, when that happened, Doesn't mean anything provided Erdrick's sword or just a hurt mortal enemy is in the way. Either or, but unfortunately, the bad situation has come to pass for Thirwolf. So let's see how Thirwolf plays.
Yeah, and I was wrong, speculating back when we were 10 or 15 minutes into this race. Players had gotten an early hurt more, they had a town and equipment available, things were all looking up and up, and now all of a sudden the whole color of this race has completely changed. They need to defeat a red dragon with Healmore on one of the spike tiles, count out difficult coordinates on another, and the way the stats are looking, it could easily be level 17 or 18 before these players are ready to even potentially dive Sharlock to get Erdrick's sword.
And it looks like Thirwolf is the only one, I believe, that has not seen the red dragon Healmore. Goes down to the stone man in the swamp cave trying to rescue the princess. While AmazingToaster still exploring and Highspirits getting the coordinates. Let's see how Highspirits is going to play this.
And it's noteworthy now, Highspirits is starting to open up his lead in terms of experience over Thirwolf. Thirwolf had not been too far behind, but I think the fact that Highspirits has better equipment is starting to help him pull a little bit away. Still only 500 points ahead, but that coupled with kind of the exploration advantage, Highspirits feels like he's increasing his lead. And meanwhile, AmazingToaster over here in Hawksness is going to get a look at this tile. And yeah, with only 20 magic points. Oh, there's a red dragon inside of Hawksness, just as a random enemy on the tiles in Hawksness as well. Yikes.
For goodness sakes. And apparently the stone man has hurt more, so that's just adding to the woes here for everyone involved.
So the two spike tile enemies.
Spell. We got a stop spell. Highspirits got a stop
great.
spell. Oh.
But yeah, neither of these enemies seem like they're great to fight, except if it turns out that the red dragon is very susceptible to stop spell. With some more hit points and strength, it could be a decent grind enemy, maybe. Still kind of stretching thing.
This red dragon is definitely all attack except for Healmore whenever that comes up.
And so if it turns out that the armor is here, that's got to feel like a huge advantage for Highspirits. If it's just the token...
Well, we're going to find out here. It is the armor. The armor is in Hawksness.
So that means the token is on the map at the coordinates, but Erdrick's armor is greatest armor in potentially any RPG. Tell us about all the crazy features that Erdrick's armor has that makes this such a big advantage for Highspirits right now.
Okay, it gives 28 defense, so it's 8 absorb or defense better than the full plate or magic armor. It also blunts hurt and hurt more by about a third. It also blunts the breath attacks by about, I'd say, 40% or a third, something along those lines. And it also gives passive healing. Every step will give 1 hit point back. And also you don't take damage from swamp or barrier tiles. So it's very much overpowered and just fantastic.
And in addition to that, it also means you become immune to stop spell. We haven't seen that many enemies who are casting stop spell, but if they are, you'll be guaranteed not to be stop spelled when you're wearing Erdrick's armor. And yeah, so it is a great set of armor. It is going to do some amazing things. Highspirits is now kind of basically just increased his lead over Thirwolf, as it would be. I can't remember, did Highspirits already get the coordinates, or did he find Cantlin?
Oh, definitely. Had to go refill after getting the bad news at Hawksness, but knowing Cantlin was nearby, I kept exploring and has those coordinates now.
I see, and I guess it looks like he might be in the swamp cave right now, trying to go rescue the princess. I didn't see exactly where the stone man is that he's fighting.
This is, I'm assuming, the spike tile. Otherwise, I couldn't imagine Highspirits is fighting a stone man.
Right, and also we've hardly seen stone men anywhere else on the map now, come to think of it. So, behind the stone man and behind a locked door is the princess. You can return her to the castle. She will give you an item called Gwaelin's Love that you can use in your inventory, and it will tell you how many steps away you are from the castle. The players know, if they've been to Cantlin, that they need to go to 58 north and 28 west of Tanagel Castle. So using Princess Gwaelin's Love as a GPS, they'll be able to find that location and dig up Erdrick's token that's hiding underground right there.
And I believe that in the bottom race is the two players who have seen the Red Dragons haunt, or has AmazingToaster been to Hawksness? I'm trying to recall. I know AmazingToaster knows about the bad news, as does Gameboy.
AmazingToaster definitely has been to Hawksness, because he saw a red dragon just on random tiles in Hawksness. Yeah, so at this point, it's hard to keep track of all four, but I think most people have seen most of the locations. Yeah, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and it'll be interesting to see how things play out in terms of the grinding. Yeah, if you're in high spirits position at this point, after you go dig up the token, what is your next move? You're basically going to be in grind and go. I guess he does have some homework that he needs to go revisit the Jerk Cave in order to actually get the rainbow drop item after he digs up the token. So that'll be his next move.
I'm kind of curious if one of our players, in this case, I guess High Spirits is the one that would be thinking about it. Is there a desert area that has some decent enemies to grind on? Because there's not really a great grind spot available with either location for spike tiles, especially with Hawksness being way out in the back 40. I'm not really sure what the play would be. Maybe Sherlock, which is usually kind of you hold your nose and you do it if you have to, but
yeah, Sherlock actually sounds pretty good because it has the dual advantage that if you do manage to make it down to the Sherlock treasury, it's likely that you're going to find Erdrick's sword, which is definitely looking like something players are going to want during this seed. We also haven't mentioned the Death Necklace. I guess the Death Necklace also has to be located in the Sherlock treasury, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think we've seen it, although right now it would take a very strange set of circumstances to get enough hit points where the rest of the stats aren't going to get to where they need to go first before we get the hit points high enough to make the Death Necklace really viable.
Yeah, that's a good point. For those who don't know, in the vanilla game, the Death Necklace is merely an item that curses you if you put it on, but in Randomizer, it's been given a special ability. If you put on the Death Necklace, in addition to cursing you, it gives you 10 extra attack power, but at the cost of 25% maximum hit points. So on a seed where you don't have the strength, but you do have extra hit points, players can choose to put on the Death Necklace either to grind in the middle of the game or to fight the Dragon Lord towards the end. But given the low hit point count in this game, it doesn't seem like it's going to come into play because you need a lot of hit points to be able to fight the Dragon Lord and take his huge attacks.
We now have a rainbow drop for Thirwolf, and gameboyf9 landed a critical hit on a golem, and the golem just laughed it off and punched him back to the castle.
Yikes. And yeah, I saw people speculating in the chat if gameboyf9 potentially was lost trying to find his way back to places. I haven't kept track of the map well enough myself, but yeah, it doesn't seem like he's made it back to Hawksness and Cantlin since he found that area first.
I'm trying to remember if he made it over to Hawksness, though. He was in that area, but he got killed a couple times. Maybe he's decided to make sure he didn't miss it elsewhere. I know Toaster has been there. I don't think Gameboy had.
Well, meanwhile, AmazingToaster is talking to the old man to get the coordinates for himself. And we know that those coordinates are just going to lead to Erdrick's token. And yeah, I guess High Spirits is on his way to go trade in for the rainbow drop right now. And Thirwolf, I can't remember where Sherlock was, but I think is headed probably over in that direction.
And we do have a rainbow drop coming up here for High Spirits. So the bottom race, both are able to access Sherlock. It's definitely a lead here for High Spirits. It's going to come down to how bad is Sherlock going to be, and can Thirwolf get that Erdrick's armor? It's really difficult to win without it, and honestly, in a randomizer race, you're not going to win without it.
Yeah, people are saying Thirwolf was looking for Hawksness, and yeah, I think I recognize this portion of the map. He needs to go right and then up, and I think he will get back over to Hawksness to try to take another stab at the Red Dragon to try to dig up the armor. But meanwhile, High
Speaking
Spirits
of-
is walking over to the Big Z.
And speaking of Red Dragon, we have stop spell attempts coming here from Amazing Toaster. Will the magic hold out long enough? And will the stop spell land soon enough? Success!
And I think was that only his second attempt where it was success. So my guess is, based on what we've seen, that the Red Dragon probably has at best 50-50 stop spell resistance.
I'm going to guess 3 out of 16. And not just because I saw the stats when they were put up after the first kill.
Oh, I missed that. All right, well, that 3 out of 16 definitely makes the Red Dragons killable for anyone after they know that the Healmore is there. So yeah, kind of a pain in the neck, but not quite as huge of a stumbling block as it could have been, since stop spell resistance is one of the things that's randomized here in the randomizer. I think Red Dragon's stop spell resistance can potentially be as high as 13 out of 16, which would have been awful. And meanwhile,
last swing here, is this going to be enough? It's enough. Amazing Toaster is going to get the armor. Oh my, close call.
close is good enough. That armor's going to help a tremendous amount. Meanwhile, High Spirits is taking a look at the first floor of Sharlock, and he has found a wizard that has the heal spell. Even with his mediocre strength in the flame sword, he'll still probably be able to hit through that and go ahead and defeat the wizard. High Spirits is coming up on the next level up. It's one that Game Boy's already gotten at level 14. But I guess he's just trying to get a sense of what's in Sharlock and decide when it's going to be that he's going to feel strong enough to go and either make a dive for Erdrick's sword, or just try to find another zone to grind in. There are red dragons on the top of Sharlock as well, and High Spirits correctly decides to try to run away and find someone better to fight, like this green dragon.
So 14 is 7, 1, and it was a double-digit magic point gain. There was no agility, but that's fine. That's okay with that being the 0.
Yeah,
but
7, 1, 10,
double-digit
0.
magic points for sure.
And yeah, but the magic points are still low. The hit points are still low, even at level 14. And yeah, without a fantastic grind, I don't know. If I were High Spirits, he's running out of magic points. I think I would either want to try grinding in the Swamp Cave, or fill up on magic, redive Sharlock, try to get down to the middle zone or the bottom zone of Sharlock and see if there's some better enemies in there. If we could find a zone that had, like 2 out of 5 Axe Knights or something, that would be tremendous.
Yeah, it's really, there's no good options anywhere here. Something that has been done by High Spirits here on the top floor of Sharlock is stop spelling and sleeping stone men, just as a way to delay them, get a few more kills. Maybe the Swamp Cave using the support spells might be the best way to go, just for the encounters.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't remember if I've seen a desert that had any particularly suitable encounters anywhere in the overworld, because that is an area that I prefer even to the Swamp Cave, but I really can't remember seeing a desert that had a bunch of great enemies on it. And that's one of the things that, honestly, just recently, since the start of the tournament, I've really kind of dialed into with all the races I've been watching. Occasionally you get in this scenario where there isn't a great spot to grind, so if there's ever a desert where you see an Axe Knight and a Druid Lord, or a Magiwyvern and a Knight, you really want to make a note of it if you're keeping track of the map on a sheet of paper or whatever, as a place to potentially come back to if there's no good late game grind.
Thirwolf here, hoping to get the kill, but no, the Red Dragon stops Thirwolf in his tracks.
And it seemed like he paused there. He had 8 magic points. Is there a reason he didn't put 1 more Healmore up to try to get 2 more swings, potentially? That seems like a weird choice to me.
I don't know if a stop spell never got put in place and was trying to decide if it was better just to swing. But yeah, I think the Healmore was the play, if you're regardless of stop spell status at that point.
Oh, Fury is saying that he did indeed just see heal more for the first time. He didn't know that the red dragon had it
That's right.
previously. And so I guess he's just hoping for a high roll excellent move at that point, but knowing that he was going to have to come back and retry.
Brutal. That is some crushing information to find out at this point in the festivities. 71 minutes in. Game Boy fighting a golem in the desert. I don't think Game Boy has the armor yet, but a golem grind potentially could be a way to go as well. This does appear to be a desert area.
Given their relatively low attack power, like the golem it's definitely killable, but as we just saw on Game Boy's side, it's going to be like 6 or 7 rounds of combat. You do get 255 experience, which is pretty great, but it's still kind of slow. I gotta feel like there's something better, and yeah, with 66 magic points, that's the main thing that makes like the Hurtmore grind inside Swamp Cave not particularly palatable, just because you're only able to kill, I don't know, a dozen enemies before you have to go and either Death Warp or refill. It looks like Highspirits has chosen to do the Stoneman grind. It's a not very popular choice of grind, but given the limited options that are available to the players, this is probably pretty good. He's putting the Stoneman to sleep and then just attacking. And the fact that it's just a repeatable enemy that you can fight over and over and over again is a great asset. And so we'll see if Highspirits starts really pulling away in terms of experience relative to the other players.
I think in the end, this grind from Highspirits is probably the best play. Using Sleep or using Stop Spell to keep that Hurtmore at bay is going to be the best way to go. Prolong your time in the cave, and you're just going to get enough encounters to make it worthwhile. And it looks like heal walking is happening as well.
I have to imagine, though, that hopefully one of these next couple of levels is going to finally have a breakout in one of these stats for the players, either strength or magic points. We'll finally see like a 15 gain on one of these level ups that'll make them feel better about how the seed is playing out, because right now we could be in for a very long grind.
There's going to have to be some big breakout stats coming, but at what level are those big, 15 plus strength or 15, 20 plus hit point gains coming? Magic is due. There's a lot of stats that are just ready to explode. And hey, Game Boy's into Hawksness.
And here's another question. Highspirits is currently grinding the Stoneman. However, he knows that Erdrick's Sword is somewhere in Charlock. At what point might he stop the Stoneman grind and switch back to diving Charlock to pick up Erdrick's Sword to potentially make grinding other enemies go a little bit faster, since Erdrick's Sword has 12 more attack power than the Flame Sword he's currently using?
I suspect it'll be one of those, either getting the next level or getting close. Highspirits might make a dive after finishing up this particular grind in the Swamp Cave.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely at least get level 15 to at least see what it is, because it's still by no means a certainty that he could make it down to wherever Erdrick's Sword might be hiding. And yeah, I mean, the sword, it's got a bunch more attack power, but it isn't clear that it would speed up this grind tremendously. 4 swings versus 5 swings or something like that is not a huge difference in terms of the length of the battles.
And the armor for Game Boy F9, so equaling things up a bit there against Toaster, but it's going to be a close-looking race at the top. I believe their items are even pretty much the same. I don't think there's a big difference.
I feel like if the stats are good on level 15, Highspirits would want to dive Charlock to go after the sword. And also if the stats are bad, I would want to dive Charlock, not so much to go after the sword, but just to see if there's some terrific grind area in the middle of Charlock or on the bottom floors of Charlock with a bunch of Axe Knights and Star Wyverns or something like that. But hopefully we'll be able to find out soon. He has just enough magic to where he's probably going to be able to kill this Stoneman. Well, it's probably like a 50-50 shot right now to get level 15 before he takes his next death.
Where is Toaster going right now? Oh, maybe not seen the Rainbow Drop Cave. That might be the issue here.
Toaster definitely looks like he's searching the entire map, trying to get all the squares uncovered. And yeah, given the items in his inventory, I feel like it was somewhere north of Coal, did we say? And
it's either
I
north of
can't tell
Coal
where
or
he is on
south
the
of
map.
Coal.
Oh
They're like
yeah,
right near each other though on the west side of the world.
right.
And
I
here's
wonder
Cantlin
if
for
he saw
Game
it
Boy.
before and forgot. I can't remember.
There's some hit points on High Spirits for the level up. The rest was nothing too special. Let's see if
Yeah,
High Spirits is heading over to Charlotte.
it was kind of mediocre as far as levels go. I mean, definitely the 9 hit points is nothing to sneeze at, but it still only brings the hit point total up to 90. Usually 97 is kind of the minimum that you'd want to be trying to fight the Dragon Lord with. And yeah, the magic points are also still pretty poor. Strength is still nothing great either.
Oh, High Spirits is heading through, so heading to Sherlock? Question mark? Or was Sherlock on the main hub? I'm trying to recall where they saw it.
The question in the chat, do we think Game Boy is going to count it out or get the princess? Because he's in Cantlin now and knows the coordinates. And I feel like Game Boy would probably count it. But we'll find out shortly, I suppose. Right now, it looks like he's just headed to the swamp. So I've already been wrong again. There's another prediction down the green. Looks like Game Boy's going to go rescue the princess. And then he'll be able to go dig up the token as well. And High Spirits quietly did manage to pass Game Boy in terms of his experience total. Game Boy is also about to get level 15 here. But High Spirits is now kind of in the all-out lead, both in terms of progression as well as experience against all of the runners here. But once again, Game Boy is in a one-on-one matchup versus Amazing Toaster. High Spirits in a one-on-one matchup versus Thirwolf. They're all playing the same seed, but there's 2 separate races.
And High Spirits trying to dive Sherlock, and a green dragon, of all things, deciding to block the way.
Green Dragon shows up with the Dragon Lord 2 Breath. That can hit the players for 42 to 48 while they're wearing Erdrick's armor. And when that's over half of your hit points, just kind of out of luck. Once again, the low hit points being a real bottleneck on this seed. And we'll see what High Spirits chooses to do right now to move forward.
Those are some real unpleasant looking things for that green dragon. My goodness.
Yeah, the 25% heal more is just another kick in the teeth. Although with the green dragon, hurt more will sometimes kill them in one shot, and if it doesn't, you could always just take a swing with your flame sword to deal a little bit of damage early on, and then kill them off with the hurt more the second time, assuming that the hurt more doesn't miss. Since it's only a 14 out of 16 chance that it's going to land. But yeah, given that the green dragon is going to be breathing that fire on you, yikes.
I gotta say, I don't think any of our competitors are going to be real happy with the person who rolled this seed.
I don't know. This one, it seemed like it was getting off to a fast start. Then the combination of low stats that we've seen in the mid game now pushing into the end game, coupled with the difficult bottlenecks of the challenging coordinates and the red dragon with Healmore and Hawksness, really slowed things down towards the end. But I think a number of the players enjoy this type of challenge, honestly.
Well, that's good, because I'm the one that rolled the seed, so I'm happy to hear that.
We're an hour and 20 minutes in. And who knows? Maybe level 16 will turn out to be huge, and High Spirits and Game Boy are both getting close to the end. I guess Game Boy still has to go pick up the token yet, so he's got a bit of homework to do before he can go back to really focusing on getting his experience up. Yeah, I could still see this coming in at a relatively average time if level 16 or level 17 turns out to be a very good level.
So at this point in time, the only thing we're really looking for sure is Erdrick's Sword, which is somewhere in Sharlock, and I guess it's time to play the $100,000 pyramid here. Do you care to explain that to the viewers and how to play?
Yeah, for those who don't know, there are 6 chests in the Sharlock Treasury on its bottom floor, as well as a 7th chest that's way off to the side somewhere else. The 6 chests are arranged in kind of a triangle structure, with 3 on the bottom, 2 in the middle, and 1 on the top left. And so if you want to place your guess as to which of those 6 chests contains the sword, the 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, or $300 chests, counting from bottom left and moving up, or what we often refer to as the judge's table, as the one other chest off to the side. Also the vanilla chest is what people will call it, because in vanilla Dragon Warrior Randomizer, that's where Erdrick's Sword is actually located. Place your guess in the chat, and perhaps one of these runners will actually make it down there, and we'll be able to find out the answer to where Erdrick's Sword actually is located.
Funnily enough, High Spirits has tried to dive twice or 3 times, and I don't think has made it down to B1 yet, but Thirwolf is already onto the diamond floor.
Yeah, he's down into the first 2 floors of Sharlock have a set of enemies. The next 3 floors have another set of enemies, and so he's made it into that second set. There's a wizard on these floors as well, but here's a Star Wyvern. And so far, yeah, enemies are being pretty nice. Star Wyvern's actually a great enemy because it's hurt moreable, so that's a quick more than 100 experience that Thirwolf is going to pick out, knocking out the Star Wyvern. And a werewolf is another hurt moreable enemy. So this is a good set of enemies on the middle floors, both for gaining experience and for staying alive during the dive, trying to make it down to Erdrick's Sword.
High Spirits is continuing to dine on these stone men.
So yeah, both of these plays, both by High Spirits and Thirwolf, I think are very viable given the things that they have seen. High Spirits went for more the early grind to get extra experience now. Thirwolf is just going ahead and diving in, and with the particular enemies he's encountered so far, it's actually working out really well for him. But at any point that could end up turning. We'll see if there's any other surprise enemies in the middle floors, or eventually Thirwolf is about to make it down to the bottom set of floors, which is going to have a different enemy set.
A red dragon picks off High Spirits. That top floor enemy set is just brutal.
And he's been unlucky, quite honestly. Thirwolf didn't manage to encounter, I don't know if he even saw one dragon during the dive, and he's already made it down to the bottom floors. So this will be really important for us to get a look at what enemies are going to be on the bottom floor of Sharlock. That might be the first time that Thirwolf saw the wizard do a heal. I'm not sure, so that's going to slow down this fight, but Thirwolf will still be able to win and continue further down.
And the thing is that Thirwolf has only gained back about 400 experience points on High Spirits at present. It appears High Spirits has probably gone back to grinding in the swamp.
And given what High has seen, that's definitely a reasonable play. And even if Thirwolf does get down here, gets Erdrick's Sword, gets some information about Sharlock, he's basically going to be then reduced to being in the same position that High Spirit's in. With Erdrick's Sword, the grind would go a little bit faster, but he's got a lot of ground to make up at this point, like 2,000 experience points. So I still feel like High Spirits is in the lead.
The other thing about that information gathering that Thirwolf has done, how valid is that information, given what we've seen has happened to High Spirits? There's got to be a happy medium there. Death Necklace in the $150 chest. And it appears that we'll have the $200 chest as Erdrick's Sword. So getting what we wanted to see, and now it's just time to grind. Maybe going to hope there's something on that spike tile that could be bashed into over and over and over.
Definitely, with 44 magic points left in Thirwolf's tank, I have to imagine he's going to check the third and final spike tile of the game, a repeatable encounter that's right in front of the Dragon Lord, and if it turns out to be something like an Axe Knight, that could be the fastest experience grind that's available anywhere on the seed. So he's definitely going to try to walk over there just to get the information. If it's a good enemy, he'll grind it. If it's not a good enemy, at least he'll have the recon information for knowing how that's going to affect his final Sharlock dive when it comes time to win the game.
Thing to keep in mind, though, Axe Knights are packing that Sleep Dragon Lord 2 Breath combination, which is not good.
I somehow had missed the fact that they had sleep. That is a big deal. That makes them far less palatable. I guess an Armored Knight actually is the thing you want to see most on the spike tiles, since they had hurt, and they would die to 2 hurt mores.
That's true. They are definitely the, let's say, nicest Sharlock enemy we've seen, other than some of the weaker ones that can't be spike tile enemies.
Yeah, Werewolf, I guess, is one of the few enemies we've seen that doesn't have abilities in Sharlock. I don't think we saw any blue dragons during Thirwolf's grind, and it's just a Stone Man. Stone Mans, as we know, have hurt more, and but obviously susceptible to sleep. And yeah, now basically it's High Spirits versus Thirwolf. High Spirits has 2,000 experience point lead. Thirwolf already has the sword, which will make the battles go slightly faster. Depending upon how fast the stats come, if the stats come at level 16 or 17, High Spirits is probably still a huge favorite. But if it takes until 18 or 19 and it's going to take more time, the equipment advantage that Thirwolf has might enable him to catch up if he does an efficient grind on Stonemen.
People asking about the blue dragon, they've been on the overworld. I think they're just straight punchers, but I don't think we've seen any in Sharlock whatsoever.
Yeah, other than the red and green dragons that we saw on the top floor of Sharlock, I don't think we saw any dragons in the middle or bottom floors. They were actually relatively tame floors kind of leading up to the Dragon Lord, all things considered.
Well,
so...
I was going to say, looking at it, the blue dragon does have hurt more, but that's almost preferable at this point, as opposed to a physical.
Yeah, Erdrick's armor is, like you said before, going to deflect a bit of that hurt more. And so you almost prefer to get that as opposed to a bite from a blue dragon. But yeah, other than the overworld, I don't think we've seen the blue dragon anywhere. But yeah, it seems like once they have the stats to fight the Dragon Lord, if they can get through the top floors of Sharlock, the rest of the dive is going to go smoothly, especially with all the agility they have. With 86 agility, they're a favorite to run from almost every monster. So it's all going to be about the grind and the stats at this point.
Level 16 about to come hot and fresh out of the oven. Let's see what we've got. 2 power, 7 agility, 2 hit points, 1 magic point. That is not the news High Spirits wanted to see.
Right, the only good gain was on agility, and that's the only thing they really don't need at this point. High Spirit's agility at level 16 is now up to 93. He's now a favorite to run from everything, so he can pick and choose his battles wherever he goes for the most part, but he desperately still needs more strength, more hit points, and probably more magic points.
This is quite the conundrum everyone is in. There's no easy answers on this particular endgame grind / diving for the sword. A lot of dead ends and not fun times. And it appeared that Thirwolf was not using sleep on the Stonemen. I wonder if just going to try to, use heal mores and ignore the damage, but that could be a lot more death warps and things of that nature. Assuming that Thirwolf's going to head to the Swamp Cave, of course.
Yeah, and he might change his strategy in the Swamp Cave versus his strategy. Like, he was thinking he'd need to take a Death Warp out of Sharlock at this point anyway, and so maybe he was playing it a little bit more casually to then go sit on the Swamp Cave Stoneman. I guess we'll find out in a moment what he's going to choose to do in terms of if he's just going to fight or if he's going to try to put the Stoneman to sleep.
High Spirits right back into the Swamp Cave, it appears. Just going to grind up another level, or most of another level, before trying that dive again, because Sharlock was being brutal.
And I'll really be curious to see if any of the other players are going to choose any kind of different strategy for doing the grind. We have AmazingToaster checking out Sharlock.
AmazingToaster is hanging out on the top floor right now, which, as we know, is not a very attractive grind area. Whereas I'm not sure where Game Boy is. It appears Game Boy is in the center floors, the basement floors. So in that sweet spot of star wyverns and werewolves and wizards and the like.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that after AmazingToaster gets a little bit more information about this floor, he will abandon it and either try to go deeper or pop out to get his magic points back and possibly head back to the Swamp Cave. But I guess he's only seen 4 or 5 enemies so far, and so he doesn't have a great sense. I also don't know that he saw the worst of the green dragon just yet.
Someone pointed out in chat that gameboyf9 is not far behind High Spirits on experience, and that is true. However, gameboyf9 is racing AmazingToaster, and High Spirits is racing Thirwolf. They are playing the same seed, but it only matters that they beat their opponent directly across from them. These are two different races, just playing the same exact set.
Yeah, and given how things are going, yeah, now at this point, Game Boy's lead over the Amazing Toaster is probably larger than High Spirit's lead over Thirwolf, because Game Boy is about to get the sword, and so he's going to have both the equipment advantage and a huge experience advantage. Whereas on Thirwolf versus High Spirits has the big experience advantage, but Thirwolf has the equipment advantage. If there's a huge level that makes it clearly time to go fight the Dragon Lord, High Spirits can just pick up Erdrick's sword kind of along the way when he goes to dive Sharlock to win the game, and not having the sword is not going to be much of a detriment. If it's one of those kind of close calls, then things could get a whole lot more interesting.
Absolutely. And ironically enough, I'd have to say, Game Boy F9 spent a long time being lost and trying to find Hawksness and Catelyn, but due to just keeping that experience grind up on a slow building stat seed, is in good shape here versus his opponent Amazing Toaster.
Just
so
looking
High
ahead,
Spirits now is, as I was gonna say, is about 1,100 experience points away from level 17. Now,
yeah, 12,000 experience will get him the next level and will give us some hope as to what's going to happen. For those looking for more Dragon Warrior Randomizer, later on today, there are going to be a few more matches. At 9 o'clock, there is a match between Ursine and Veilov. And then at 10 o'clock, we have two different matches. Don't know exactly how it's going to be restreamed yet. We have Z-Man versus Beta Strep, and I will be racing against Up to NG. And so if you're enjoying Dragon Warrior Randomizer, stay tuned for information on where those matches are going to air later tonight.
And right now you're seeing, as has been pointed out in chat a few times, that despite having that sword, Thirwolf's really not making up any ground here on High Spirits. So High Spirits doing the extra grind before getting the sword does seem to be the right play.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of the difference between maybe taking 4 rounds of combat versus maybe taking 5 rounds of combat, or actually given their strength, it might be more like 5 and 6. And so it's not a huge time difference in terms of the average time for defeating the Stone Man. And interesting. Up to NG said that Game Boy is cursed. Did Game Boy get the death necklace and put it on and is choosing to use it to grind now? Is that what I just missed? What happened here? Breckenry is right outside the castle, so Game Boy could always uncurse later. This is a huge, crazy strategic play that I never even considered.
I can't see it saving any time. Yeah, you get booted out of the castle quickly, but you have to go fill up at Breckenry or remove the belt from around your neck. So I can't see this being a big thing. Maybe it was an accident. Who knows?
I see. He accidentally put on the belt. Got it.
Yeah. I'm guessing. I didn't see it happen. I don't know why.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. Yeah, just reading the chat. But fortunately, Breckenry is just a few steps outside the castle. There is a man in Breckenry who will be able to remove the curse. And so Game Boy will be able to do that and get rid of the curse. The curse, its main disadvantage is you can't get healed in the castle or go back into the castle after you have been cursed because the king kicks you out. And so that means you have to walk to another town if you want to get your magic points back.
His attack power is higher, so but the hit points, they are still showing as not Death Necklace. I'm kind of confused what happened here. I wish it would have.
Well, this will definitely be one of the questions that we'll have to ask Game Boy during the race to find out if it was a mistake or an intentional thing and exactly what was going on through his head here, because I'm kind of clueless at this point.
Okay, so it was Curse Belt, not Death Necklace. That's correct. He's picked up the sword. That's where the attack power difference is coming in. Very strange outcome here. Well, let's see him get booted out of the castle. Yeah, this definitely doesn't save time, so it must have been an accident. I can't imagine it being anything else but. But anyway, High Spirits with that night kill is very close to leveling up now. Just a little over 300 experience points away from level 17.
Indeed. And I'm kind of surprised that at this point, High Spirits isn't just using Hurt more in the night, just to save a little bit of time. Because when you get so close to a level, like usually I just want to get the level as fast as possible. Because if it does turn out to be go time, if all of a sudden a huge set of stats comes, I want to know ASAP. And he definitely has enough magic points that he's going to be able to get the level off of a couple more stone men here. But I guess he was killing the knight in 2 shots, so it was only costing him like 5 seconds to use the sword there.
What does the cursed belt do? The cursed belt just puts a curse on your player, and the king does not like that and will throw you out of the castle without healing you. I believe still robs you of half your money, though, on the way, which is really just a huge, just mean, awful move.
And the only other utility that the Cursed Belt has in the game is you can sell it at various shops for 180 gold. So if you get it, for example, as a starting item in the throne room, it can be an easy way to carry gold that is not going to be lost when you die to a town where you could sell it and then purchase a copper sword or something like that. The Cursed Belts, by the way, are items that appear in chests when Erdrick's Token and the Fairy Flute are not in chests and are instead on the map like they were in this seed.
You know, there's a thought. What if the cursed belt was an item you could put on to save your gold when you die? You just don't get the refill from the king.
That's interesting. Yeah, we've seen a lot of conjectures of interesting capabilities that could be added to the Cursed Belt in the Randomizer. McGrew has done a lot of cool work on this Randomizer, and yeah, there's still lots of ideas flowing, so who knows what we might have in future versions with different flags that you could add.
People looking in chat if that's go mode for those stats. It's 10 heal mores. You would be a little bit under the weather strength-wise. You'd be looking at a range of 6 to 13.
I think it's
You'd have to
7
depend
to
on
14.
some doubles.
You're going to get 128 attack power with 12 more from Erdrick's Sword.
Correct. 7 to 14.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Dragon Lord is going to have a random between 150 and 165 hit points, and the maximum amount of damage you can do if you take your attack power and subtract 100 from it and divide by 2. That's the max amount of damage. So at 128 attack power after High Spirits gets Erdrick's Sword, then subtract 100, that leaves you 28, divide by 2, that leaves you 14 as the max damage you could do to the Dragon Lord. He's still going to be too weak, I think, given these set of stats. He's going to need level 18.
I wonder if maybe gets close on the grind. Not this time, but the next visit to the Swamp Cave. Getting close to 18, might decide to take a dive. The only issue is that if it's the big stat gain on 18 is magic points, then it's essentially a wasted level if you're trying to dive for the win.
I can't remember if there was any town that was particularly close to Sharlock. I remember that the Staff of Rain Cave was right outside there. I don't remember how many steps away it was to get to a town. If there was a town that's somewhat nearby, then if I got to like 17 3/4 and then took a death, I would probably head to Sharlock and hope that 18 is going to be the level.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Again, like everything in this endgame, not really sure what I would do. The Stone Man is the play, as you can see. AmazingToaster appears to still be trying to go with either a Sharlock grind or maybe trying to dive for the sword. All right, I just reconnected. Can you hear me, Lorgon?
I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
I can now hear you. I think. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, Lorgon. Okay, we're having a few technical difficulties, but the important thing is that this race is still going on and no one has finished as of yet.
And I think I'm back again this time, although apparently I never left and I didn't realize it before.
For me, my hearing you dropped out, so I reconnected. I could hear you, but then you disappeared. Anyway, nothing much has changed because Stone Man. It's really just been a thing here. Stone Man, Stone Man, Stone Man, and we have a dive from Amazing Toaster, looking for the Erdrick sword. I would have sang more, but I really can't sing, and I'm not going to subject you guys to that.
At least they have some good weaponry to fight the Stone Man and don't have to fight him with a spoon.
Well, you know, they could beat the rhythm with his bones. All right, that's enough of that.
I sure hope level 18 gives them some good experience and some good, gives them some good stats.
All right, so High Spirits takes the death with no stats left. Let's see, with 380 some to go to the next level, is High Spirits heading to Sharlock?
Yeah, that's a big question here at this point. I have a feeling that High Spirits will head back into fight more of the Stone Men and won't take the hope that the level is going to turn out dive, just knowing how High Spirits plays, but I've been wrong on multiple predictions already, so let's see what happens.
I think you're in pretty good likelihood here. Here's a question for you. How does something as big as that knight dodge an attack? That thing could not be able to move that fast, I'd have to say.
Well, apparently in the act of moving that fast, it fell over on the ground, because then High Spirits got an excellent move and just crushed him with a huge shot. So, no big deal.
That sounds about right. And if High Spirits is going to be using magic to grind, I'm with you. I don't get why the Hurtmore doesn't come out to get rid of that knight as quick as possible.
Yeah, none of the players attempted it. I would have been interested to see if players just walked around the swamp cave, Hurtmoring, knights, Magiwyverns, and Druid Lords, how quickly their experience would have been rising relative to these slow grinds against the Stone Men. Stone Man probably turns out to be faster anyway, especially given the relatively low magic point totals that would have you refilling at the end sometimes while trying to hurt more bad guys. But I think it would have been somewhat close.
Well, once this Stone Man is defeated, we will see level 18 and likely be ready to go here. If there's any sort of like even 4 strength would be fantastic. 18, it's time to go. 1 hit point and some magic points for another heal more. Definitely time to fill up and get going.
So if you had stepped away to get some snacks at some point during the race, if you can hear our voices right now, now's a good time to come back. High Spirits is going for the dive, and we've seen High Spirits have very bad luck on the first 2 floors of Sharlock. Red dragons and green dragons still capable of potentially ruining his day, but if he gets past those first 2 floors, I think he's probably going to be good. And I see another crazy idea in the chat for possible capabilities of the Cursed Belt. Z-Man suggests Cursed Belt causes an encounter every step, turning any area into a grind mode area. That would actually be really interesting.
The issue with that idea is if you put it on accidentally and Breckenry is nowhere near Tanagel, you're basically done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe Repel will work.
I was going to say, I do like the idea.
Yeah, if you had Cursed Belt plus Repel, like maybe then you could repel weak enemies, and if Breckenry was nearby, like in Zone 0, 1, or 2, it would be okay. I don't know. Lots of crazy ideas flying around. It's always fun.
Absolutely, and Game Boy potentially is diving for the win here, going for it at 17. Maybe feels that things have been really slow and might be behind on the race.
Or that he's possibly going to try to grind out 18 by the time he gets down to the bottom and hope it's going to come through with big stats. Game Boy, he's the type that when there's a possibility of winning, he will go for the win. And so whether it's level 17 or level 18, it looks like he is going to take a shot. And his tremendous agility and some good enemies on the middle floors here mean he can choose his battles, and so he can probably get the experience he's going to need. I really see him trying to get level 18 right as he reaches the bottom.
Thirwolf is diving as well, having just got 17, and I think Thirwolf's thinking, I gotta go. I don't... Probably feeling, again, might be a little behind, just going to try a dive on borderline stats. So we could be in for an interesting finish here from Thirwolf on High Spirits. Who's going to get down to the basement first? Who's going to have the better encounter luck? Remember, Thirwolf made a great dive, and High Spirits still needs the sword, technically. Could try it without, but I suspect Theodric's sword will be collected.
Yeah, given the monsters that we saw on the bottom floor, I guess by the time High Spirits get down there, he will have only gotten maybe 1 or 2 encounters before having to make the decision to go check the treasury if he wants to get the sword. But the monsters on the bottom floor seem pretty kind. And yeah, even though they're not racing head-to-head, Game Boy versus High Spirits, this could turn out to be an interesting finish between the two of them as well.
And yeah, Thirwolf having excellent luck here again with encounters on the dive. Lots of long walks, first turn runs. As I say this, a wizard blocks the way. Why does the commentator ever say anything? I don't know.
Commentator's curse. Whenever you say something that's happening good for the players, it always turns bad. So yeah, maybe at this point we should just switch to sitting back and seeing what happens. Game Boy, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, Game Boy is using the flute on a golem. So he definitely sees how close he is to getting level 18. He's going to get that level, and it's possible that he could still finish first.
Absolutely. Thirwolf here, still in the lead on this dive, but they are on the same floor. And as I say this, the encounter rate gets pretty brutal for Thirwolf.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a slow spot there in the race, and all of a sudden this got really exciting. So now we have a Game Boy headed to the Dragon Lord, still needing to fight a couple more bad guys in order to get his level up. We've got High Spirits heading toward the Dragon Lord, except he's probably going to make a diversion into the treasury. And we've got Thirwolf headed to the Dragon Lord straight on.
And Thirwolf right now just massively walking through the final floor. That was an incredibly long time without an encounter. Already off the bricks.
And stat-wise, he has a shot to defeat the Dragon Lord at level 17. It's probably, I don't know, I feel like in the range of 50-50 or something, depending upon how Dragon Lord 1 and any potential back attacks treat him. With 98 agility, he's unlikely to get a back attack, though. Meanwhile, High Spirits is going to pick up the sword. And yeah, this got really exciting. Game Boy just got the level. Wow, wow, wow. A lot of stuff happening right here at the end.
Oh, craziness. But the first one to the Dragon Lord is going to be Thirwolf. Getting to full hit points and checking out the stats. Deciding it's time to go for it. Let's see if he wants to see physicals and low rolls for some double potentials with 112. It's not likely, but it could happen with this high defense.
Indeed. And just as a reminder, on the bottom race, High Spirits versus Thirwolf, which is going to be very close. Both of these racers were coming into this race 2-0. 3-2 is likely what you need to advance into the bracket stages. So no matter who wins this race, both of the players will still have a good shot in the next couple of weeks to get their chance to advance. But we're going to have an exciting finish right here.
Here we go. Will Thirwolf get a back attack? No back attacks. That's a good start. And a double to open. Excellent opener. 23 damage already. I'm going to count on Thirwolf.
Yeah, at this point, I would have to say that he's a small favorite to win against the Dragon Lord. If he gets average rolls throughout and may or may not pull off one double, he could probably do this.
34 so far. With this attack upcoming, that's 45. These attacks are above average, each one thus far.
And going back to earlier strategy, High Spirits had bad luck trying to dive Sharlock early, and so ended up going for kind of level 18. Thirwolf did manage to dive and get the sword earlier. He had the information that the bottom floors were not going to be as scary, and as a result, that might have emboldened him to do this dive at level 17 that now seems like it's going to work out.
Well, the rolls got a little bad, and High Spirits took a back attack at the start of the fight, which was rather unfortunate. And for those keeping count, half the Healmores are down, and Thirwolf's only done about half the damage needed, so it's gonna be tight. Attacks on 47. Attacks on 47. Will the breath get him? No! Still alive.
That's a gutsy play. And yeah, even though High Spirits has the back attack, his stats are so much higher that I have to feel that High Spirits is going to be a favorite to win regardless. And so it's going to come down to whether Thirwolf can get the rolls to pull this off.
He was agonizing about that, and good thing he did the Healmore. He was dead.
And in the other race, even though it's not racing against them, Game Boy also fighting through the Dragon Lord, coming down to his final few Healmores. This is 3 Dragon Lords on the screen. This is great for a quad race. I'm loving it.
Unfortunately, it's looking unlikely right now for Thirwolf. It would, had to take a crazy roll, and that's it for Thirwolf. A noble effort, but taken down. Let's see if High Spirits can finish this out now. And of course, Game Boy F9 is going to take the ultimate victory.
Wow, so get your GGs in the chat. Game Boy F9 ends up being the first person to finish this race. He managed to time the dive perfectly so that he could get level 18 right as he was approaching the Dragon Lord, and sure enough, level 18 came through. Meanwhile, High Spirits has also defeated the Dragon Lord, so get your GGs out in chat for him. We have winners of both of these races. High Spirits will go to 3-0 and definitely advance to the bracket stage. Game Boy is going to advance to 2-1 and have some good odds if he can win another match out of his neck.
GG's indeed. What an exciting finish to this one. All of a sudden, there was all this action and him and everything. Oh my.
Yeah, really a superb race, and I'm not surprised. Game Boy and High Spirits are both runners who are in like the top 5 or top 10 on game. They both know the game really inside and out, and yeah, they put their experience to the test on this one.
And the interesting thing is that Game Boy F9, I believe, is the 2-time running champion of the summer tournament, the style tournament, and would have been quite the thing to have him drop to, I believe, 1 and 2 had he lost this race. So a big victory there towards the knockouts for Game Boy.
Indeed. Yeah, and I guess Thirwolf did decide to forfeit, but yeah, an extremely noble attempt. He had a real shot, and it looks like he is going to be joining us here in the chat. Thirwolf, you had a shot there at level 17. It didn't quite come up for you, and High Spirits was fighting the Dragon Lord at the same time at level 18. Tell us how you're feeling, what was going through your head.
Oh, I thought, well, this fight is going poorly. Try to hurt more him, I suppose, and no, didn't work out.
No, if you do watch this back, it was crazy exciting because you got to the Dragon Lord ahead of High Spirits, but High Spirits had an extra level. So it was a very intense finish with just all these Dragon Lord fights going on. Good effort.
Yeah, the grinding in that was, I don't know where they grinded, but I did not have a good spot that I liked.
Well, we're also joined by both Game Boy and High Spirits. So yeah, tell us about, I guess I'll ask High Spirits first. Thirwolf was fighting the Dragon Lord just moments ahead of you, but at level 17 and ended up dying in the end. High Spirits, tell us about your finish on this game.
It wasn't the best grind, and I wiped twice trying to go through Sharlock to get the sword early, but otherwise, it was a slow slog because there wasn't a lot of good grinding, and you were stuck with an inferior weapon with no strength for most of the time. And no health, too.
Yeah, the HP were really low at the start of the seed and even well into the mid-game. We're also joined by Game Boy. Game Boy, tell us what your thoughts are on the race.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I had any business to win the race, let alone the 4-way race. And the reason I say that is because how long did it take me to find Hoxus? 20 minutes, something like that, before I finally
it took me
found
just as long.
it took the one tile that got me to Hoxness.
I just want to throw in there that no one took as long as Game Boy to find Hawksness and Cantland. It was painful watching you retrace all your steps because you just couldn't get up to that one spot on the map.
It was in such a horrible spot. That's the problem. It was like such a terrible spot to get to.
And Game Boy, we have to ask, did you equip a cursed belt at some point during this game, and what happened there?
Yes, I did, and I did it just for the heck of it because I thought I was going to be dead meat. Let's figure, if I'm going to go 1 and 2, I might as well do it in style.
I see. Well, yeah, turns out you ended up being the first person to finish this race, so just goes to show what we all know in Randomizer. Crazy, crazy.
Well, I tell you what, I died, and it saved me a few seconds. Except I had to go to Breckenary to go to the end, so I probably lost a few seconds too. So it's like, oh well.
Well, I'll tell you this: your swag curse belt, as Chad is putting it, also led to an interesting discussion around maybe adding a flag for making the curse belt do something other than cursing you. It was a fun little sidebar while all that grinding was going on.
Yeah, I was just in the end I was just like, yeah, what the heck. And then but I did like my strategy at the end to grind a smidge into 17 and then dive on 17 and get 18, and it turned out that those stats worked out very well.
Yeah, you ended up timing that perfectly to get level 18 right as you were approaching the Dragon Lord, and level 18 obviously came through with the stats that turned it into kind of a definite win. We saw Thirwolf went at 17 and had a shot, but level 18 was a big gain, both with attack power and some of the other stats, and so definitely turned it into go mode there. High Spirits, you're going to be advancing to 3-0, and so it looks like you were forward into the bracket stage already.
Yeah, probably to lose in the first, second round. I'm used to it. If this
Just
was chaos or something else, I probably would win, but it's the standard tournament, so no chance.
I just want to interrupt real quick. Someone asked if there are more races tonight. There is, in fact, 1 at 9 o'clock and 2 at 10 o'clock. As far as I know, the channels are to be determined. Just so everyone knows, there is more Dragon Warrior Randomizer action. Now back to
They
the
will
post.
be on Randomania, one of the Randomania networks, because there's going to be a Final Fantasy marathon coming up shortly after we're done here.
Yeah, I have to figure out where I haven't answered High Spirit's question yet. I'm in trouble. He's the administrator of the week, so I'm in big trouble now.
Also, for everyone, I mean, obviously, excluding Hawksness and Cantland, what was the most annoying thing to get back to when you needed to get to it at any point during the seed, other than those two, because they obviously would be the answer?
You know, the only issue I had was getting to Rimildar and getting past it. Just to find the mountain cave was there. Other than that, I don't think I had trouble getting anywhere, but that gave a lot of issues.
High Spirits, you managed to settle into the Stoneman grind, which did seem the best among poor choices pretty quickly in. I'm wondering if you or Game Boy or Thirwolf gave much consideration to any other options for grind.
I actually did. My first thing I was going to do was grind the wizards on that little mountain area or hills area on the way to Rimildar that I got attacked by about 50 times at the beginning of the seed. But then none of them would appear, so I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to go fight the Stoneman.
I was hoping that Hawksness's trap tile would be an armored knight, just because I know they had hurt. And I was like, come on, buddy. But no, it's just another stone man. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, I imagine you also could have been hoping for the Armored Knight when you got to the bottom of Charlock after picking up the sword. It looked like you were going to go check the tile there, but it also turned out to be another stone man.
I have to say, guys, that honestly there was only 2 spike tile enemies that really would have been okay, and the blue dragon would have been number 2, and that thing was physical and hurt more. So not a great murderer's row for you guys to choose from, regardless of what they gave you.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
just a very slow, long grind. So I knew we were all stuck doing it, unless someone found the magical spot on the map.
Yeah, it was Red Dragon at Hawksness that had heal more, so I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work either.
Funnily enough, about the Red Dragon and Healmore, the first person to find that out was Amazing Toaster, fighting one on the overworld. So knew that ahead of time. Everyone else found it out in Hawksness, I believe.
No, I found out too in the overworld.
Oh, that's correct.
Right, because
yeah,
you found
were.
Hawks
Yeah,
so late, right? You'd already gotten
yeah,
that
you did
information.
find that out.
Yeah, it's because my map mapping skills suck.
Yeah, these maps in the new version of Randomizer with the rivers and things can be a challenge to keep track of. Speaking of Amazing Toaster, finding it first, Amazing Toaster is now just about to get into the bottom levels of Sharlock. He is at level 18. He still has 89 magic points, and so barring a disaster, he should be finishing up his race relatively shortly here as well.
If there had been 11 Healmores available, I wonder if 17 would have been much more viable. Just having 10 with that low strength probably was a, not very likely outcome for a win.
I think at 86 strength at level 17, even 11 heal mores would have been stretching it because you need about 14 attacks to kill. So it could be done, but it would be stretching it a little bit, even with 11.
And did we ever pull up the stats, or does anyone who killed the Dragon Lord know approximately how many hit points Dragon Lord 2 actually had in this particular seed?
Oh, I don't know. I went from 140 to 162, so I have no idea what it had.
87,901. I don't know. 879. Yeah, 159. Okay.
I bet you 159.
Really?
It's 159.
Yay!
So that also makes level 17 that much farther out of reach, because getting a 150 or 151 is much easier than a 159.
There was a bit of a mistake there from Amazing Toaster. You sleep on the Stone Man, giving away a Healmore on the Spike Top.
Yeah, but he only needs 8 to win. Maybe 9 if it goes bad.
That's true. The strength is sizable.
Yeah, thank goodness that level 18 came up with a huge level. We were wondering if the huge stat game was ever going to finally come. And then when it did, it ended up just being a beautiful confluence of all three of you converging from different directions. Game Boy still diving with level 17, Thirwolf already having the sword and not having to divert into the treasury, and Highspirits starting to dive earlier but having to make the diversion and having more encounters along the walk that made it so that all three of you were fighting the Dragon Lord at the same time. It was so fun to watch.
Why does the Dragon Lord do that? After a race is over, except for the last person, open stop spell. So mean.
He knows. You know
what did irk me in this seed? Okay, I'll tell you what irked me. Having 99 defensive power at level 16 or 17, one short of being able to damage break that stupid Stone Man. That irked me. I'm like, one more defense is all I need to get through this next level of the grind.
Yeah, that is pretty brutal.
I had not noticed that.
Yeah. Darn Stone Men. Oh well, they were the best grind. They were best grind this day. Well, it was pretty much tied with just diving Sharlock.
Not if you were Highspirits.
Oh my god, Highspirits.
I died twice in there, so trying to get the sword at level 14 or 15, and then I just gave up. I'm like, forget it, it's not worth it.
The green dragons were mean. I can't even remember if everyone saw them on the first floor.
I did.
I happened to somehow 3 times in a row missed a hurt more on a green dragon.
Yeah, we were wondering what exactly went down there. So all of a sudden you were dead, and we're like, what?
All right, so I can tell you that the remaining races will be on Randomania or Randomania 3 or Randomania 4. Just Highspirits has to figure out which one goes where. So it'll be one of those.
So
it'll
5
be
is busy. Got it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'll schedule the races.
Guys, I just want to cut in and let you know
shortly.
Amazing Toaster has just finished off the Dragon Lord and is now talking to the King, so GG's to Amazing Toaster.
Good game, Toaster.
Well, thank you very much for the race, Thirwolf. I'm going to go ahead and get these scheduled and whatnot. and get some food. So thank you for the race, and good luck in the rest of
GG. Thanks for the good luck. Good luck to y'all as well.
And I will do the same. So good game, everyone. And also, I want to thank CD for the restream, Brian Lorgon for the commentary, and Cyber for the tracking. Really appreciate it, as always.
And I think Ali was possibly
And also, I
tracking
wanna
part of this
thank,
race as well. But
CD
yeah, thanks to
for
everyone
the
who's working behind the
restream,
scenes.
Brian
We're now
Lorgon
joined
for
by
the
Amazing
commentary,
Toaster,
and
who's
Cyber
just
for
finished the race. Amazing Toaster, tell us about it.
I was up against Game Boy, so I knew it was going to be a rough chance. And then I kind of had an idea I was out of it when I couldn't find the jerk for the longest time. And then the grind was just terrible.
Yeah, Game Boy had spent a little bit of time earlier struggling to find Hawksness. But then, yeah, I guess other people had found the jerk early on around the time when they first found Cole. And then, yeah, we saw you wandering the map a bit toward the end of the game there. And that definitely slowed things down.
Yeah. Yeah, just finding the jerk was probably my biggest time loss in all of this. If Game Boy hadn't finished, I would have tried it on, what was it, 17? That would have been a real big chance. But once I saw him and High Spirits finish, I was just like, let's go to 18, see what's there. If they didn't do it, and then I got the 18 powers, like, yeah, this is definitely the level.
Yeah, actually, Thirwolf did attempt at 17 and actually got to the Dragon Lord ahead of High Spirits with a chance to potentially snake the victory, but it just didn't work out. And some bad heal mores, a lot of fire breath. As you said, it was a very unlikely possibility, but there was one level 17 attempt in this race.
Yeah, it was mathematically possible, but it wasn't a high percentage.
And something that was mentioned in chat, actually, we were talking about taking on Game Boy and you trying to find the rainbow drop. Well, you were trying to find the rainbow drop. Game Boy had the longest hunt to find Hawksness and Caitlin. Just couldn't get up to that chunk of the map. Started retracing his steps. He was all over the place. But when he was doing that, he was killing things consistently along the way. And you were using Repel, and that's kind of where he built his experience lead on you to a sizable amount.
Yeah, I wasn't getting a whole lot to kill with Repel on looking for the jerk, so that definitely.
Yeah, this is one of those seeds where there actually were tons of kind of mid-game enemies. When your magic points were still kind of low, it kind of felt bad as you were hurt mooring all kinds of things walking around the map because you were going to run out of magic points before you maybe reach the next town. But then, yeah, in the late game, leaving the Repel off so that you could still gain experience as you're walking around ended up being an asset to Game Boy, and that's what gave him the experience lead.
Yeah, it was definitely a... I tried doing... well, I did a bunch of grinding in the Swamp Cave, because there was a decent enemy set there once we got more to grind away on. But
yeah, I was going to say, Lorgon actually was proposing that as a grind spot in general. Just use that and hurt more, whether that be quicker than plinking stone men.
I thought about it, but it was a little there. The majority of the enemies, and there were, I think, 2 low XP. I was trying to figure out a way if I could get those the AK-47s that had a high hurt chance. So I was thinking about whacking away at them and hurt mooring them to maybe get some XP, but I could never find a good spot to get them to pop up.
Yeah, there really wasn't just any sort of decent grind area on the overworld. It was just one of those late game grinds where you just kind of have to hold your nose and take the best of the worst, or the worst of the best, I guess.
Yeah, and it kind of turned into the top layer of Sharlock, even with that kind of long walk back to Cole.
Yeah, everyone else ended up settling on the Stone Man in the Swamp Cave.
I thought about doing that, but it was just it might have been a better thing if you had the sword, but we didn't have the sword.
Yeah, ironically, High Spirits didn't get the sword until his final Charlock attempt, but he had gotten everything else done so quickly that he was already starting to fight the Stone Men like back at level 14 or 15 or something like that. And so we spent a lot of time grinding on that tile.
So looking at that, High Spirits did grind on the Stone Man, tried to dive a couple times and died. Meanwhile, Thirwolf did get down to the sword on the first attempt and was about 1,800, 1,700 experience behind at that point. And despite having the sword, High Spirits continued to just slowly build experience point lead. Like it was incremental, but just getting better kills, getting using sleep instead of just damage racing and heal mooring, ended up getting a slight advantage for High Spirits and getting the grind done a little bit quicker. It was very fascinating to watch the differences and how it all played out.
And then heal more on the fun place. That's always a real fun thing to find. At least I found it before I was on the tile in Hawksness.
Indeed. Yeah, that was kind of an ugly surprise when each of the players encountered it.
Yeah, there was nothing nice about that end game. It just everything was unappealing. Oh, and we have channels have been posted. 9 p.m. race will be on Randomania 3. The first 10 p.m. is on Randomania 4, and the last 10 is on Randomania Prime. So no forward. There'll be 3 different channels on the go potentially all at once. So a lot of action coming your way tonight.
Yeah, and with that, we should probably go ahead and wrap things up. Anything else that you want to say, Amazing Toaster, before we go ahead and lead things off? I think RPG Limit Break has some Final Fantasy stuff coming up.
Nope. I guess stay tuned and watch that. Is it a relay or what are they?
I don't remember. Brycel, do you remember?
Let's see. Looking at it right now, it looks like they're doing an opening ceremony sort of thing, and they'll be starting with Final Fantasy IV SNES any % no credit warp. So they're having a marathon, like a 4-day Final Fantasy fun time. So a lot of runs to come.
Yeah, I've watched those. I think it's one of those relays, and those relays are a lot of fun to watch, and you won't be without content.
All right, so I guess we'll get out of the way for that. For those of you who love Dragon Warrior Randomizer, like Bryself said, at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock on Randomizer 3, 4, and the original, you can see more Dragon Warrior Randomizer later tonight. I am lorgon111, and
we'll see y'all next time. And we're done.